Hey there. So, I want to do a response to a video that popped up on YouTube recently. From the channel ArtieRaccoonReviews. The video is "Why Does Cable TV Sucks?" Or, I'm sorry, you know what sucks, cable TV. And I just want to respond to it here as somebody who for many years worked in the cable TV industry. If you don't know, I worked for about at 9 years. I worked for a certain very large cable and internet company. So I know the industry pretty well. So without further ado, I'm going to go ahead and we'll get started. I will be stopping throughout to make some comments, give some commentary, give my thoughts, and away we go.
You know what sucks? Cable TV. Before I get into the thievery and idiocracy of cable providers, I want to give some...
I think thievery is a little bit of a strong word there, but we'll get there. Also, like the old Time Warner and Charter logos there on this graphic. Excuse me.
Some background information. Before watching content on the internet became a viable option such as YouTube, Hulu, and Netflix, we were stuck having to watch shows and movies on television. These services existed before the 2010s and started back in the mid-2000s, however they didn't catch on until a few years later since internet speeds back then were unreliable and slower than Peter Griffin trying to travel up a hill.
2009, 5 megabits, yeah, that's about right.
Before streaming, what was on unless you had a DVR. You either were unlucky and had antenna TV, or were more fortunate and had cable or satellite.
More like had money and could afford cable or satellite, or didn't have money and had antenna. I don't know if luck has anything to do with it, but...
There was literally nothing to watch on antenna TV except for adult animated shows that aired on Sunday nights on Fox. Saturday morning cartoons and PBS Kids were also pretty good if you were younger, but back then on cable there was much more variety and looser guidelines. All the cost was usually an affordable $60. There was AMC, FX, MTV, Comedy Central, Cartoon Network, Adult Swim, Boomerang, History Channel, The Weather Channel, G4 which I talked about a few videos ago, and much more. It was pretty decent for a few decades up until the mid-2010s when it went more downhill than a ski resort slope. Our constant price hikes, hidden fees, and overall scummy business tactics really pushed people to switch over to streaming only.
Scummy business practices? Okay. Let me step back here for a second. He's showing an Xfinity bill, and it shows he's got other charges all highlighted. I'm not sure what the connectivity charge is. Regulatory fees, some areas have that, not all. The broadcast fee or broadcast surcharge, and the company I worked for, was built into the regional sports fee was built into that. That is okay. When you watch your local channels, your ABC, NBC, CBS, Fox, CW, for the most part, there are exceptions, but for the most part, you're not watching just ABC, NBC, CBS. You're watching a local affiliate of that channel. You're watching a local station that carries that channel's programming. The broadcast fee or broadcast surcharge, that goes to pay the owners of those channels. Your Nexstar, Tegna, Hearst, Sinclair, etc. And those channels carry sports, so add that into the mix.
Tactics really pushed people to switch over to streaming only. It was even reported that some companies like Comcast would bribe you to stay with special offers and discounts to get you to not cancel your subscription.
Bribe, kind of a strong word there. Yes, they use retention tactics, but what company doesn't? No company wants to lose customers. That's why they want to try to retain, to keep customers from leaving. So, he's got a passage here. Why are cable companies allowed to have monopoly? Yeah, so this pretty much says it. So, yes, there is a sort of natural monopoly because you may see on your cable bill what's called franchise fee. Okay. Any municipality out there, for a cable or satellite, not satellite, but for a cable company, whether it's coax cable or fiber, whatever, even telephony, they, in order to provide their services to customers in that municipality, in order to have install their lines and their infrastructure in that area, they have to pay. They have an agreement with the local municipality that says that they can provide their services to customers in that municipality, that area, in exchange for paying the municipality a certain amount of money, and it basically equates to a certain small amount per customer. That's what your franchise fee is. Thing one. Thing two, yes, it's going to be a kind of a monopoly because they're only going to have so many franchise agreements, excuse me, for a given area. They're not going to let just anybody in there. Plus, how many companies' lines do they want running in the area? Do you want to black out the sky with 8, 10, 12 different companies' cables on the poles? I don't think so. So a lot of it's practicality.
They also own a monopoly over cable wires in towns, counties, and even entire states. In my county, the only cable and internet providers available are Comcast and Verizon.
I wouldn't say exactly own a monopoly. I would say they own their lines. Comcast, the lines that Comcast signal goes out to their customers on, Comcast owns that cable. Same with Verizon, their fiber areas, they own their fiber. Spectrum, same thing.
Not to mention cable providers given to companies that own local channels like Nexstar, unfairly demanding higher fees, which in turn causes the cable bill to rise exponentially.
There you go.
You know how every few years you see Viacom have some campaign to convince people to act like Karens and call their cable company providers to keep their channels because of carriage disputes, when in reality, it's Viacom's fault for charging a ridiculous rate for these services.
Good point there. Good point. Yes, you see these carriage disputes and you get into this back and forth finger pointing between the media conglomerates and the cable or satellite companies. And the cable or satellite companies, they don't want to raise the bill on you. They really don't. But it's a business. They have to make money. They're there to make money, make a profit. If anything, if you can blame anybody for the prices going up, the continuous price hikes, blame the big media conglomerates. Paramount Global, Warner Discovery, Disney, Fox, Hearst, A&E Networks. These huge conglomerates that own dozens even of channels. They have the cable and satellite companies over a barrel. They can say, "Oh, we own all these channels. Do you want to renegotiate renew your contract with us and pay more, the higher amount that we're asking, or do you want to risk dozens of your channels getting blacked out for your customers?" And often enough, the cable satellite companies will bend over and take it. For example, see the Spectrum Disney debacle of about a year and a half ago.
Their channels. Nowadays, I believe the average cable bill is like $150 to $200, which is pretty expensive. They sneak in all sorts of fees, such as local broadcast fees, sports fees, carriage fees, and so on.
Go back to that for just a second. I want to go back to that graphic. So, yeah, broadcast fee, we talked about that. Regional sports fee, we kind of mentioned that. Set-top box rental fees, well, yeah, you're renting the equipment. If you're using a set-top box, you're renting it. And I know we have Spectrum in my area, and Spectrum, you rent the box, the set-top box, and there's an additional fee for the DVR service if you want to have DVR. It says installation fees. I would guess that would be like the one-time charge for installation. Would be the only thing I could think of there. Cable modem and/or router fees. Again, that's an equipment rental fee. Spectrum doesn't charge for routers, for modems anymore. They do charge for the router if you want to use their Wi-Fi. But you're not under any obligation to use their Wi-Fi. So if you want to save some money, do what I do. Buy your own router. HD technology fee. I'm not sure what that is. It might be similar to the DVR fee, but I'm not sure. And internet service related fees. I guess that's your internet, whatever you're paying for your internet speed.
Carriage fees and so on. They also jack up the bill every year or so just for the hell of it.
No, not just for the hell of it. Just said they don't have a choice. It's a business ultimately. They have to make money. Remember, it's a business. Cable company's a business like any other. They've got employees to pay, expenses to keep their facilities running, infrastructure to maintain and upgrade, etc. That costs.
Since they know people don't have a choice. Why isn't there an option just to choose the channel you want and watch for it for a cheaper price? Also, on a side note, Comcast and Xfinity also doesn't carry Boomerang, since they have a...
Why isn't there an option to choose? That's a good question. And it goes back to the contracts that the cable satellite companies sign with the big media conglomerates. Those carriage agreements. Those agreements will always be worded such that, say, Disney's agreement says that for the main core level TV tier, service tier, they have to, per the agreement, they have to have Disney Channel and Nat Geo and FX, for example. But then they also have to have ESPN and ESPN2 there. They're built in. Yes, it would be nice to get something where you didn't have to have, say, sports channels if you didn't want them. Because sports channels, sports channels, if you break cable channels down break your cable bill down by channel. I saw some information on this about a year or two ago. If you break it down by channels, by far the most expensive category of channels is sports, no contest. And if you break it down to specific channels, your most expensive channel, by a big margin, is ESPN. The information I saw, and this was back September of 23, the information I saw that I was reading said that basically, depending on the level, the average cable or satellite bill, depending on the level of service you've got, and if you have like additional tiers, or whether or not you got additional tiers, or if you just have like a core package of channels, just ESPN is anywhere from $9.50 to about $15. Just ESPN. And pretty much, they're not the only ones that are expensive. All sports programming is expensive for several reasons. One, the sports leagues charge exorbitant amounts for programming, for rebroadcast rights. Plus, on top of that, athletes live like kings in this country. The salaries they get paid. On top of which, they also get paid insane amounts for their name, image, and likeness. So, it all adds up.
A grudge against Warner Brothers for reasons I don't know, which is pretty unfair. Even the channels themselves got worse, repeating the same few shows over and over and over again all day with little to no variety. For example, MTV only plays Ridiculousness all day long, and Cartoon Network only plays Teen Titans Go all day long as well. A wise man once said in the future there'll be 100 TV channels but nothing to watch.
Left out, Nickelodeon only plays SpongeBob all day long.
I honestly don't see what's so hard about channels airing older content too and having a little bit of variety. You don't need new shows all the time. A theory is that it will cost them more to air classic shows since they'll get higher taxes for higher viewership, but I'm not sure about this.
I can't see it having anything to do with taxes. I think more like licensing fees, maybe. Although I think they would own a lot of their older programming, so... Or this, maybe they're... Another thing, this just occurred to me, but maybe they want to have less programming options on their channel so they can drive more people to, on their linear channel, cable channel, pay channel so they can drive people to streaming. There's a thought, because that is ultimately the way of the future is streaming.
Don't even remind me about the commercials. What is the point of paying well over $100 a month just to watch ads? If you're
Good point, but again, just like anything, it's a business, and they cannot, the network, these big media companies or the networks that they own, the channels they own, they cannot afford to run these on just ad revenue, nor can they afford to run them on just what they get from subscriber fees from cable and satellite subscribers. It takes both. Sad, but true.
paying up the ass, you should at least be ad-free. They also repeat the same commercials over and over and over again to drive you insane. If you're poor, commercials are redundant and shouldn't appear in the first place since you can't afford to advertise product.
Well, you see the same commercials over and over again on streaming too. Whether it's Paramount Plus with ads or any other streaming service with ads, or even ads on YouTube. Unless you're like me and pay for YouTube Premium.
Well, it just doesn't make sense. Fast forward to today, and there are dozens more better alternatives such as streaming services, video sharing sites, piracy, and even antenna TV improved with the addition of digital subchannels such as MeTV and Defy TV. And looking at the future, I think cable is only going to be around until maybe 2030, possibly 2050 at the latest, before streaming is the only option. Some cable provide.
One, I do not condone piracy. Two, I wouldn't really be able to put a specific year. I wouldn't try to put a specific year number on when cable will be around to. But I think it's going to have a gradual decline. But it is in decline now, and it's going to keep, excuse me, keep declining until it goes away. In fact, we're already seeing it happen. Within recent years, several of the those upper channels, your high numbers, your like secondary channels, we've already seen some of those start to go away. ESPN and NBC Sports Network, for example, went away a few years ago. And in just a few days from the time I'm recording this, specifically on March 6th of 2025, Universal Kids is shutting down. And I can name quite a few more I think are going to be following it in subsequent years.
Providers are gradually transitioning to IPTV services like DirecTV, WOW, Frontier, and Sparklight Cable are soon only offering new customers YouTube TV instead of traditional cable. New generations like millennials starting to raise families.
Or you have things like the cable companies embracing the move to streaming and going with things like the streaming apps, like Xfinity has their app and Spectrum has Spectrum TV. And to take that one step further, about a year or so ago, actually a joint venture, believe it or not, Charter Communications, that is Spectrum, and Comcast, Xfinity, got together and bought streaming company Xumo, that's spelled with an X, and their hardware, and developed their own software for it, and further developed the hardware, developed their own software for it jointly, and have released Xumo boxes, Xumo devices to their customers. To it, a Spectrum or Comcast customer can pay for a TV package to their company, and they can get, in lieu of a cable box, a traditional set-top box, they can get a Xumo box and use the streaming app that's sort of baked into the box. And other cable companies are going this route too. Cox is on board. They're doing them. There's another one, Suddenlink, I think. But it's definitely happening.
Are finding alternatives to cable TV, and older generations like boomers that still watch it are gradually cutting the cord. Less than half of the people living in the US have a subscription anymore, so thank God it's dying. It's the cable provider's own fault and they shot themselves in the foot. Maybe they'll even make cable channels available on antenna if this goes on. That would be awesome.
That's not gonna happen. That is not gonna happen. In fact, there's a move right now, there's been a big push to try to encrypt antenna channels and make them harder to get to unless you pay something. Well, the exception being your big networks like ABC, NBC, CBS, Fox, the big four. Now those have to be free. They'll always be free over the air because the FCC says they have to. In fact, that's the only reason that those big networks are continue to broadcast free over the air, is because the FCC says they have to. You don't have a choice. It's in the public interest.
I just hope internet as a whole doesn't suffer the same fate as cable, where the unreasonably high cost and lack of variety and option kills it. They know people will pay any price to continue having the internet. It's pretty essential nowadays for almost everything, ranging from keeping contact with others to conducting business.
Yeah, I don't think price of internet's going to go up the way cable is. I think that would not be a good business decision, because you want people to buy your internet service if you're a cable or satellite company. That's a big part of their bread and butter these days. Company I worked for, TV, well, traditional TV, we know, TV as a whole, and cable and internet were their bread and butter. Specifically, internet was the big one, the big breadwinner. TV, cable, traditional cable TV set-top box, it's on a slow decline, but streaming is on an uptick, is moving on up. It's on an increase, so it balances out.
You are better off only getting internet these days to watch YouTube and pirate all other content not available for free, and that is why cable sucks. Thank you for watching, and make sure to like.
Again, I do not condone piracy, but if you're going to do it, that's what you're going to do. But there's always options. You could do like me and cut the cord and just go with an antenna and a couple streaming services and a library of DVDs, or some combination thereof. You know, whatever works for you. But nobody has to pay that expensive cable bill if they don't want to. One thing. But that pretty much says it. I just wanted to put my input in on this video. I thought it was intriguing. So that's about all I've got for now, folks. So I will see you whenever I do another video.